Hello everyone, it's been a little while, but I'm back to speak a little bit more about my experience at Yale and US, my transition sort of fully into the semester, and primarily my week 7, which all around was a really amazing experience. So I was doing the week 7 called Spaces of Globalization, specifically looking at sort of how spaces are globalized in Singapore and discussing the question, is Singapore a globalized city? If I had to sum up the whole thing, it was a really, really amazing experience. In fact, I would say it was the highlight of my time so far at Yale and US. It merged my social and my academic and my off-campus lives really, really well, and I think that helped me appreciate Singapore in a really new light. To give you a little bit more information about the specifics of my week 7, we basically traveled to different areas of Singapore, and through both class discussions and readings and just sort of individual exploration, tried to connect that space to the global flows around the world of capital, of cultures, of ideas. A few of the days that really stood out would be the first one, in which we went to the Singapore Exchange. I'm personally not much of an economics person, but it was actually really, really interesting and super important to understand the financial side of globalization. Another very important day was the one in which we went to the maritime port. And I know this doesn't sound particularly exciting, but we got a tour basically around the area in which these massive ships, these cargo ships, are coming in, and cargo is being traded in and out of Singapore, sort of stored for a small amount of time and then put on different ships so that it can go around the world. It was just insane to see the amount of technology and the amount of movement of goods that was going through that space. The day that stood out most for me personally was going to Lucky Plaza. We were looking at how this space is reclaimed by domestic workers in Singapore, specifically Filipino domestic workers. It was incredibly interesting to be in this space that seemed to adopt an entirely different non-Singaporean personality for one single day, that being Sunday, and then just returned back to Singapore almost immediately afterwards. And it was also interesting, Lucky Plaza is placed in pretty central Singapore, and so it's surrounded by a lot of other quite popular and high-class malls. And to be able to be in Lucky Plaza, a place that was very chaotic and full of a lot of energy, a lot of very interesting and unique gender dynamics playing out in this space, and then to walk right across the road and walk into a mall that's like perfectly clean and well lit and incredibly expensive and there's virtually no one there, was a really interesting sort of physical representation of the different sides of globalization. That sort of brings me to the symposium, and the symposium is basically where all the week 7 projects present their ideas to the Yale and US community, but also any parents and family and friends that want to come and see what we did. During our symposium, we did a lot of things, but the thing that I focused on primarily was trying to discuss the winners and losers of globalization. During the day in which we went to the financial districts and were studying the sort of economic side of globalization, I spoke to this French investment banker outside of a Raffles place and basically asked him, do you think globalization is good or bad? Which is obviously a very loaded question, but he came back with a really immediate answer, and it was, there are winners and losers of globalization. I have won, but many others have lost. For me, that was just a very powerful thing for someone to say, in that he was fully accepting his position as a key player in globalization. As an investment banker, he is responsible for global exchanges of money, right? And yet, to so openly see that globalization causes so much harm and to accept that was very just interesting. I definitely want to thank all the people that made my week 7 possible. Prof. Paul and Adele were immensely helpful with constant guidance and support and just a passion that was really contagious. Additionally, my week 7 group, thank you guys so much. I was constantly inspired and surprised by your academic engagement and enthusiasm, so thank you. Besides week 7, Yale and US has been quite good. My life has just sort of continued, and I think adopted a sort of nice pattern, actually. I'm still playing football and basketball. I climb every once in a while. I am doing some work with the G-Spot, Increasingly, I've been trying to focus my attention to projects off campus, and so I'm doing some work with a group called Climate Conversations, and basically the goal is to increase the dialogue around environmental sustainability in wider Singapore. Besides that, my interest in student activism has grown. I'm involved in CAPE, which is a student advocacy and political group that has popped up in the last month or so. I'm also doing some work, and hopefully more work in the future, with the Yale and US Divest movement. This was spearheaded by a group of students last year, and they're now looking to sort of pass it on to younger batches. So that's quite exciting. I'm looking forward to the coming month and a bit and seeing how the semester wraps itself up. Getting excited for winter break. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate the support, and you will see me a little bit more than a month.